You know, the Arch Manning era already facing monumental expectations in Austin, Texas. The Longhorns enter the season as the odds-on favorite to win the college football playoff. FanDuel likes them at plus 550. Meanwhile, their Week 1 matchup in Ohio State with the second shortest odds there at plus 650, with the Big Ten and the SEC dominating the conversations in Vegas. We've got a way too early college football playoff bracket reveal to give you something to think about as the season rolls along this year. And our Tom Fornelli is here with his bracket breakdown. Tom, we are going into the second year of the expanded CFP. That means 12 teams will make the cut. Who do you have making it this year?
Yeah, 12 teams for now. Maybe it'll be 28 soon, based on the news that we've been hearing lately. But nothing too crazy with my field, although the order is probably a bit different than what a lot of others are projecting. I have Ohio State winning the Big Ten again, or actually winning it this year, getting the #1 seed. LSU is who I have winning the SEC, so they get the 2 seed, followed by Clemson, your ACC champions, at 3. And then Notre Dame, no conference, but now with the rule changes, they could still get that first-round bye because they finish in the top 4. So those are your 4 teams on a bye. And then after that, I've got SEC title game loser Georgia, Penn State, the Big Ten title game loser, followed by Alabama, a Texas team who is the favorite to win it all, but I think will make the playoff, but is not the best team in the country. They get in as an 8 seed, followed by Big 12 champion Kansas State at 9, Miami at 10, Oregon at 11, and Boise State at 12.
All right, so the team's pretty familiar here. No surprises really there. So now we're going to go through this round by round. We're going to start in round 1, Tom. So there we see it there. Kansas State versus Texas, Boise State, Georgia, Oregon, Penn State, Miami, Alabama. Take us through your first round.
Yeah, all these games are on campus, and we saw last year the home field was a tremendous advantage for everybody involved, and I don't really see much different in this year's format. I've got Texas taking down Kansas State in an old-school Big 12 rematch. I think the Longhorns move on here. In the next game, I've got Georgia at home against Boise State. We remember what happened to Boise State last year. They had the bye. They played well against Penn State, but they couldn't hang. But I think going on the road to Athens against the Bulldogs is probably a lot to ask of the Broncos. I think Georgia wins that one comfortably. Then we get another Big Ten regular season rematch in our next game with Penn State hosting Oregon, just like they will in the regular season. Don't we love seeing rematches, folks, with this expanded playoff field? Penn State once again takes down the Ducks to move on to the next round. And finally, in Tuscaloosa, the Tide takes down Miami to move on to the next round in what I think would be a very fun game.
I actually also, that was what I was thinking when I saw that matchup there. Miami, Alabama, going to be fun, but you have the Crimson Tide moving on. So now we get to those teams who had the first round bye. Still some familiar names, a lot of chalk here, Tom. But let's start with Texas, Ohio State, another rematch of the season opener this year and a rematch from last year's CFP.
Yes, finally, for the 3rd time in 12 months, we get to see Ohio State and Texas, but at least this time they're back on a neutral field because that's what everybody loves. But as I predict to happen, last year happened in the playoff, and what I think will happen in Week 1 this year, I've got Ohio State taking down Texas for the 3rd straight time and going back to the semifinals, keeping their dreams of repeating as national champions alive. In the next game, Notre Dame and Georgia. We've never seen that one before, have we, Haley? Not in a playoff game, although at least this time when Gunnar Stockton is starting for Georgia, he's doing so as their actual starting quarterback, but it's still not enough. I think the Fighting Irish once again take down the Bulldogs to move on. We move down the bracket a little bit. A game that is not a rematch. Finally, something new, something fresh. Blue versus orange. Penn State and Clemson. Clemson is the lower seed in here because they are the ACC champion, but you know what? Penn State's the better football team. Penn State takes down the Tigers to move on to the next round. And then another classic SEC battle that we've seen so many times, but honestly, I could watch these two play all the time and never really get tired of it, LSU and Alabama. I had LSU winning the SEC. I have LSU winning this game as well to move on to the Final Four.
Okay, so LSU going to get the battle of that big rivalry series there. One reporter on the SEC documentary, by the way, said that that game specifically is one of the most hostile environments of all of sports. And I do want to mention as well, Tom, because you mentioned Notre Dame, they still are dealing with a quarterback competition right now. Marcus Freeman says there's still no decision between his 2 options there. So something to keep our eye on as the season gets started, but as it stands right now, you have Notre Dame back in the semifinals. That's where we come next. So talk me through Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Penn State, LSU.
Yeah, it's a rematch of last year's title game, and I hope Marcus Freeman's named as starting quarterback by the time this hypothetical matchup starts. If not, he hasn't. This could be a problem for him, but either way, I've got Ohio State once again taking down Notre Dame. I think that they're just they've got more depth of talent, and I think we've seen Ohio State last year kind of set forth a blueprint for how to, let's say, manage their roster as the season goes on to keep themselves fresh as the later you get into the campaign. And I think that continues to pay dividends here against the Notre Dame team that doesn't have quite the same amount of depth as the Buckeyes. So the Buckeyes move on to a title game where they will defend their title. And when they get there, it will not be a rematch against Big Ten foe Penn State. No, 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 no. LSU is going to the title game. The biggest surprise of the season, I think, if you asked anybody, if you look at what our projections are, I have the Tigers winning the SEC, and I have them reaching the title game where they are taking on Ohio State in an epic battle of big schools and big-time football programs.
Okay, wait, Tom. This matchup gave me goosebumps a little bit just to think about LSU getting all the way here. Sorry, James Franklin, maybe next year. It is Ohio State and LSU in your national championship game. Tom, who is the winner?
As we enter the season here, it's beginning soon, there's so much mystery about who the best team in the country is, and you look at it and you feel like there are 8 different programs that you think are capable of winning a national title. So when that's the case, why pick the obvious answer? Why go with the team that won last year? Take the team that very few people see coming. Give me LSU winning the national title, taking down Ohio State in the title game. This is a program that has a quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier who might be your Heisman winner. He might be the #1 pick in the NFL draft. He's an excellent player. Defensively, under Blake Baker, their new defensive coordinator last season, we saw them make improvements. I think going into the second year, that team will be even better on the defensive side of the ball. So I look at this LSU team as kind of a sleeping giant. It's not like we haven't seen the Tigers win national titles. They've done it under 3 different head coaches with 3 different quarterbacks, and I think Brian Kelly and Garrett Nussmeier become the 4th different combo to win a national title in Baton Rouge. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. Give us a little Ogeron in there as well. Of course, we have to if it's the Tigers winning it all. Tom, this was so fun. I hope that this comes true so that when we check the receipts in January, we can say, I told you so. Appreciate your time this morning, my friend. Week 0 coming sooner rather than later. We're going to say aloha to week 1 in Hawaii. The Rainbow Warriors going to take on Stanford on CBS. You see that game highlighted there at the bottom of your screen. Just one of 5 games kicking off in that week 0 next week. And you can catch more of Tom Fornelli's fictional brackets, if you will, on the Cover 3 podcast alongside a handful of incredible hosts on that show. They bring you all the latest, all the angles in college football. Scan that QR code right now to get plugged in.